Good morning, class. Today we will be completing the chapter on photosynthesis. So in my last class I had discussed the mechanism of photosynthesis and how the leaf is adapted to carry on this process. Today we are going to discuss the factors, both external as well as internal factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. So to begin with, we start with the external factors that bring about a change in the rate of photosynthesis. So factors affecting rate of photosynthesis. First we will discuss the external factors. Now external factors are light, intensity of light and the quality of light. So first factor is light. I have already told you, light is a combination of 7 colors, what we call as Vibgyor. Now in the blue region and in the red region, photosynthesis is maximum. And it reflects the green light. That is why the plants appear green in color. Then we come to the intensity of light. As light intensity increases, rate of photosynthesis also increases. So if we have a graph where we represent the rate of photosynthesis on the y-axis and the light intensity on the x-axis. We will also have to take into consideration another external factor, that is carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere. You know air contains 0.03% of carbon dioxide. Now rate of photosynthesis is affected by both of these factors. So as light intensity increases, rate of photosynthesis also increases. But say about 0.02% of carbon dioxide, it stabilizes. It becomes constant. At this point, if we increase the light intensity and also increase the carbon dioxide content, rate of photosynthesis will further increase. And at 0.05% of carbon dioxide, it again stabilizes. So it increases, rate of photosynthesis increases with increase in intensity of light and becomes stable at 0.02% of carbon dioxide. Further it increases if carbon dioxide content is increased and again becomes stable at 0.05% of carbon dioxide. It again becomes stable. So we will get a graph like this. So two external factors that affect light. Then we come to the third external factor, that is temperature. Now you know that there is an optimum temperature of about say 35 degrees Celsius where photosynthesis is maximum. This is rate, this is the temperature. Photosynthesis increases and say about at 35 degrees centigrade it is maximum. Why? Because the enzymes work best at their optimum temperature. After 35 degrees centigrade, if we increase the temperature, rate of photosynthesis starts falling. And above 40 degrees centigrade, it stops. Why? Because the enzymes are denatured. Enzymes are denatured, or we can say they are killed at high temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius. Rate of photosynthesis is maximum at 35 degrees centigrade, and for every 10 degrees centigrade rise in temperature, rise in temperature, every 10 degrees Celsius jump, the rate becomes double. Rate of photosynthesis becomes double. Like if we increase the temperature from 10 to 20 degrees Celsius, rate becomes double. If from 20 to 30, or you can pick up any 12 to 22 degrees, 10 degrees difference will make the rate double. The fourth external factor is the water content in the plant. Water content in the plant, if water is available externally, roots absorb water. So if water is available, photosynthesis will take place. If water is not available, photosynthesis is going to be affected. Now, when is water less? If the rate of transpiration is more than the rate of absorption, or the soil is dry and does not have water, the plant will not absorb water, the roots will not absorb water. And if water is not available to the plant, photosynthesis rate is going to be affected. So these are 4 external factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. After this, we will do internal factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. Now, in internal factors, the first factor, let us say, is the structure of the leaf. Both external structure and internal structure of the leaf will affect the rate of photosynthesis. When I talk of external structure, in my previous class I had explained that lamina is the flat expanded portion of the leaf. If the leaf is narrow, that means the surface area is less. So less light is falling on the leaf. With less light, rate of photosynthesis is going to be affected. So this is external structure. Then if the number of stomata are less, I have explained these. If the number of stomata are less, there are fewer stomata, what happens? Less carbon dioxide will diffuse in through the openings into the leaf, and plant will not get enough carbon dioxide, rate of photosynthesis will be affected. And internally, if intercellular spaces are less, then diffusion. In spongy parenchyma, if you remember, I told you leaf has palisade and spongy parenchyma like this in my previous class. Stomata are there. Upper epidermis has lesser stomata and lower epidermis have more stomata. So, if spongy parenchyma has less intercellular spaces, the diffusion of gases will be affected. If the epidermis is thick and the cuticle covering the epidermis is thick, what will happen? Diffusion of the gases will be affected. So rate of photosynthesis will be affected. So this is about structure of the leaf. External as well as internal structure of the leaf affects the rate of photosynthesis. Then we come to the protoplasm. Protoplasm contains water, and we have learned only 1% of the water that is absorbed by the plant is used in photosynthesis. Only 1% water absorbed is used in photosynthesis. So if the protoplasm does not contain enough water, rate of photosynthesis will be affected. And if photosynthesis has taken place and the end product of photosynthesis, that is glucose or starch, that content of sugar is high in the protoplasm, then the rate of photosynthesis will be affected and it will become less. So that is why food that is formed during photosynthesis has to be translocated, has to move away from the leaf for more photosynthesis to occur. Then third, light absorption in photosynthesis takes place by the green pigment chlorophyll. This pigment gets activated and breaks water, or lysis of water takes place, and further chain of reactions of photosynthesis occur. So if the chlorophyll content is less, that is, sometimes plants suffer from mineral deficiencies. You know, magnesium is a very important mineral which is a constituent of chlorophyll. So if the plant is not getting enough magnesium, it is deficient, there is deficiency of nitrogen or other minerals, chlorophyll synthesis will be affected, and less chlorophyll or absence of chlorophyll, photosynthesis will be affected. Rate of photosynthesis will be slow. So these are the internal factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. Here I would like to mention one more thing, that stomata are openings that are surrounded by two guard cells. These are nuclei. These guard cells are very rich in chloroplast. The inner wall of the guard cells is thicker and the outer wall is thinner. These guard cells are surrounded by epidermal cells. Only if guard cells are stretched, means if they are turgid, they are in fully extended state, what will happen? They will pull the walls of the guard cell like this and the pore is open, stoma is open, and carbon dioxide will diffuse into the leaf for photosynthesis. So there have been two theories that have been proposed for the opening of stomata during daytime. Stomata are open during daytime, and you know photosynthesis occurs during daytime because light is essential. Stomata are closed after dusk because light is not available, and stomata become flaccid. So when stomata are open, the guard cells are turgid, and when stomata are closed, the guard cells are flaccid. So two theories have been proposed to explain the opening and closing of stomata. One theory, which is the old theory, is called the sugar concentration theory. In this theory, during daytime, the chloroplast present in the guard cells, they synthesize starch, glucose, which is converted into starch, because of which the solution inside the guard cells becomes hypertonic. Sugar accumulates in the guard cells due to photosynthesis. Solution inside the guard cell becomes hypertonic, and when it becomes hypertonic, it draws water from the surrounding cells, from the surrounding epidermal cells by osmosis, and the guard cells become turgid. They are stretched, stoma is open, carbon dioxide diffuses in. This is the old theory. The recent theory is called the potassium ion concentration theory. Now, I have explained this theory. You have studied about this theory in transpiration. Now, this theory states that the starch present in the cells converts to malic acid, and malic acid then changes to malate ions and hydrogen ions. Now these hydrogen ions move out of the guard cells in the epidermal cells, and potassium ion move inside. So during daytime, when starch is produced, it is converted into malic acid. Malic acid changes into malate ions and hydrogen ions. Hydrogen ions move out. There is efflux of hydrogen ions and influx of potassium ions, because of which water is drawn into the cells and the cells become turgid, because these potassium ions then combine with potassium with malate and form potassium malate, and because of this water is drawn into the cells, cells become turgid, stomata are open, and after dusk, or let us say when it becomes dark, what happens? Potassium malate breaks into malate and potassium ions. There is efflux of potassium ions and influx of hydrogen ions, and water is lost from the guard cells become flaccid and stomata close after dusk or after the sun is down. So this is how oxygen comes out from the stomata and carbon dioxide moves into the stomata for the process of photosynthesis. So these were the factors affecting the rate of photosynthesis. One more thing that is left in the chapter is the carbon cycle. So we will be doing this now. Cycle means that cyclic changes take place. It starts at a point and it ends at a point. And when we are talking of carbon cycle, this means we are talking about the amount of carbon present in the form of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We all know atmosphere contains the normal constitution of carbon dioxide in air is 0.03%. Now what happens? This CO2 that is present in the atmosphere is picked up by the plants. Plants perform the process of photosynthesis, use this carbon dioxide, convert it into food, because of which they are called producers. Animals depend on producers. So animals are called consumers. There are different levels of consumers. Primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. So food, because plants are the only organisms that can fix the energy of the sun into chemical energy of food, which is utilized by others. So animals consume the food produced by the plants. Plants are called producers, animals are called consumers. Now when plants and animals, they respire, carbon dioxide is again released in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is again released in the atmosphere. If plants and animals die, the death and decay will again produce carbon dioxide. The decomposers depend on plants and animals. When decomposers respire, carbon dioxide is again produced in the atmosphere. When decomposers bring about death and decay, again carbon dioxide is produced. There are certain excretory products that are produced from plants and animals. These excretory products, let us say animal produces urine and feces, these are also decomposed and they produce carbon dioxide. Sometimes these plants and animals, they are buried under several layers of earth, under water for thousands of years, for millions of years. When they are buried, they form fossils. And fossils are formed like coal, petroleum, which are also called fossil fuels. When these fossil fuels are burnt, combustion takes place. They also release carbon dioxide in the air. So the amount of carbon dioxide present in the air remains constant. There is balance in nature, and man, human being, because of various industrial activities in the name of growth, is causing imbalance in nature, and the carbon dioxide content in the air is increasing. But by natural means, carbon dioxide content in the air remains constant because carbon dioxide is removed from the air by the process of photosynthesis and is returned by the process of respiration, by the process of decomposition, by the process of combustion. Sometimes carbonates, calcium carbonate, other carbonates like limestone, when they are used in brick kilns, they also produce carbon dioxide. So this is what is carbon cycle. I have explained it to you. The steps are clearly mentioned in your book. When you read from the book, you can get a better idea. You will just follow what I have told you. So this is about carbon dioxide cycle, which means a series of changes taking place where carbon dioxide is removed from the air and is added back again into the air by various other processes. Photosynthesis removes it, combustion, respiration, decomposition adds it back into the atmosphere. With this, we have completed the chapter on photosynthesis. We have discussed definition, equation of photosynthesis, the experiments based on photosynthesis, the mechanism of photosynthesis, the adaptations in a leaf that affect photosynthesis, the factors that affect rate of photosynthesis, and today we have even discussed the carbon cycle in detail. So next turn we will be starting another chapter. Good luck till then.